Like if you're serious about it, because if you're going to just do it to be able to hopefully give someone some money so you don't have to do the hard work, like it's probably not going to work. But if you're like, I'm going to make this work one way or another, and you're like all in, that's when you're going to get the most out of any sort of coaching program, whether it's group or an online course or a one-on-one coach. Like when you have decided and made the decision that you're going to go all in, that's when you're going to get the most out of it.
You buy a bunch of properties right at the beginning of COVID. Have you just always been a buy and hold person? Have you done any other types of investing strategies, or just buy and
No,
hold?
that's really been it. I've always just been buy and hold, cash flow, like kind of landlording style. I unfortunately did sell some along the way because it was like, I could either spend $10,000 pouring into fixing roofs and driveways of this property, or I could just sell it and make 70,000. And at the time, as a young kid, I'm like, well, that's cool. I can make $70,000 doing nothing. Now looking back, I'm like, that was dumb. I should have just found the 10,000, done the repairs and kept it and, made hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
in
Here's
equity and
my
then
thing.
refinanced, but
Here's my thing that I've had. The one thing about owning single family rentals, I own a few. I own like 3. I feel like people have this vision of living off cash flow, right?
mhm,
I think one of the main reasons you probably didn't just put in the $10,000 is like a lot of times things cash flow, but all the cash flow ends up going into maintenance almost always.
sure.
Every $300 payment after a while, like you got to put in 10K for whatever the hell, roof, paint, whatever it is to get it rented out again. And so I see real estate as it's great for tax benefits and it's also great for long-term appreciation. But what do you think of that? Like, that's the thing that I've always had an issue with is like, I don't think I'll ever be able to live off cash flows, at least from single families, maybe multifamilies, because you have that economy of scale. But what do you think of that? Like, do you agree with that? Do you disagree? Like, I'm just curious because this is the one thing that I sometimes not butt heads, but like disagree with buy and
Mhm,
hold people on. Is that
sure.
I feel like for buy and hold to be worth it, you have to be making a lot of active income. How do you feel about that?
So there's 3 ways you make money with real estate, right? So there's equity increase, there's cash flow, and there's tax benefits, right? And so you talk about it, and depending on where you're at with your journey and what your goals are, one of those 3 might become a way bigger focus, right? And so, I know like when guys are killing it, bringing in millions of dollars, they have all this, maybe from real estate or maybe an outside active income, they've got too much money to know what to do with. The tax burden becomes a real concern. That's their highest expense. That's their number one expense. And so a lot of guys get very focused on the tax savings of real estate because that will eliminate their biggest expense of taxes. But, and then the appreciation is huge. So I call it equity increase. And the reason I said equity increase is that could be through, doing like a flip. You can increase the equity, manually. You can increase the equity through appreciation. There's the principal pay down as the mortgage is being paid off. That increases your equity. And so that's where like real wealth can be grown, right? So the taxes is eliminating your biggest expense. The true wealth is grown through appreciation. When you own these assets and they double in value and you can tap into that value through debt and still retain the asset, like that's where the true wealth is grown. And then the cash flow, I say, cash flow won't make you rich, but it can set you free. And I know, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't live off of cash flow, but it's like you can. It just you either got to live little lower or just have a lot of properties. But you can absolutely live off the cash flow. I do it. I know a lot of people that do it. And it's a huge motivator for a lot of people. But again, it's also not motivating for a lot of people. If you have a good active income, the cash flow is not that big of a deal. But if a couple thousand will replace your income and you can just go have the bandwidth to do whatever you want now, whether that's build greater wealth through other things or travel or be with your kids or whatever, it's 100% a reality that many people are living every single day. But you just got to look at what your goals are and what aligns with you at this moment in time. And that might shift your investment strategy based on what you're trying to accomplish.
I gotcha. So you have always been, or you at least recently, I don't know when you started, have been focused super much on education, educating people on real estate. You have your education company. I want to know like what inspired you to do that, or what inspired you to get into that and start all the cool education stuff you've been doing.
Yeah, so I'll say two things with that. So one I'd say is, there's this phrase we've all heard, high risk, high reward, right? So I would submit that that is a loser's mentality. That is a poor mindset. When I say poor, I mean like a poor person mindset, and that high risk, high reward. If you look at the ultra wealthy, they actually have asymmetrical investments, meaning the upside, meaning asymmetrical means it's not equal, right? So the upside is very, very high, but the downside is capped. You're not going to lose too much. That is a true investment if you can have a high upside with a very capped downside. Okay. So as opposed to high risk, high reward, look at what I say: high vetting, high education, understand the economy, understand the market you're in, understand the deal you're doing, make sure it's asymmetrical where it has a very high potential upside and a capped bottom side so you can't get hurt too much. And that is how to invest. So for me, the question was, why is education so important? Because I think if you truly understand it, understand the science behind it, then you can cap your bottom and cap the downside and protect yourself. I'm very risk adverse. I don't do risky stuff with my money or with my time. And I know I'm talking about, climbing mountains and doing all these different like extreme sports, but I even then there, if you if you know what you're doing, it's actually very, very safe because you're in control of it. When I was talking to a friend, driving down the freeway is actually a lot more dangerous than rock climbing or skydiving because there's all these uncontrollable variables of ignorant people that could just take you out and kill you at any moment, right? But when I'm rock climbing, like there's a couple variables, most of them are in my control, and I can vet out the conditions and do it or not, right? And so I think the same thing with real estate. I can get a place under contract. I can have it inspected. I can have it appraised. I can do all this due diligence, make sure I know exactly what my purchase price is, know what the rental income will be, everything before I even buy the thing. And I can back out if it's not equaling up the way I want. So I have a lot of control on what I'm doing before I get into it. And as far as sharing that, so I actually didn't start the company. My buddy Brody Fawcett started the real estate investing school, and he asked me to come along and help do some of the coaching and run the podcast and things like that. And for me, it was just cool because I love real estate. I have a passion for it, and it's always fun to share things that you're good at and that is life changing. And so it was just cool to kind of be part of the team and share that with new people with him.
Love it. So like what was the story? So he came up to you and you guys are like, look, education, this is the way of how we help other human beings. What, like, actually really my question is, what was your motivation behind doing the education company?
The,
Obviously it's
yeah,
amazing for other people. What
it's
what was
funny.
what like inspired you?
Well, it's funny because it started out with people just kept asking, like, "Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that?" People knew that Brody was doing real estate, and they were just like, "Well, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this?" And so many people were asking how to do it. He just like, well, put together a little program that he could just sell and say, "Hey, here's a booklet and some videos. Like, this is what I'm doing." And then people were like, "But I want more help. Like, how does that apply to me?" And they needed one-on-one help, and it was like, okay, well, I think there's a business here. If this many people want to know about this and they're wanting to pay for it and they want one-on-one customization help, he obviously, no one person has the bandwidth to do that for everybody that was reaching out to him. And so that's when he's like, well, we'll bring in extra coaches and build the whole company around it where we can actually have the bandwidth to help people one-on-one customize to their personal situations and their goals and their timelines and their resources to develop something to help them achieve it. So really just, the need was thrown at us as people just wanted to know about it. And then it just kind of developed from there.
What has been like the most rewarding thing about having an education company? Like, I mean, I educate people through my YouTube lives and podcasts and stuff like that. But like, what's been the coolest thing about having an education company? Like, what's
I
been
mean,
what's
it's
been
just
your
so
favorite
rad
part
to
of it?
be a part of someone's journey. You know what I mean? Like you see someone, honestly, so one of my favorite things in the world, and this goes back to fear, is seeing someone overcome fear. Like, and I love that. I love seeing that. And everybody's fear is different. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, but he's this crazy endurance athlete. He did, 50 Ironman distance triathlons, where you swim 2 miles, you run a marathon, you ride my bicycle 112 miles, like this real crazy. And he did one of those every single day for 50 days in 50 states. And then he wanted to top, and he did one every single day in a row in Utah for 100 days in a row. Just ridiculous stuff. But one thing he said, everybody's heart is different. He's like, this is my heart, because this is where he's put himself. But someone else, their heart might be running a 5K. And he talked about his mom showing up the last day and running a 5K, and she'd never done that before. And that was her heart. And I think the same thing, it comes to fear. So I was just in Moab doing this 400-foot cliff that you jump off of with this rope tied to you, and you free fall for 200 feet. And then you're swinging above 200 feet above the ground next to these 400-foot cliffs. And it was exciting to me, right? And I was doing this like double flip off of it. And it was kind of scary to get myself to actually like flip off of it. And I was like, okay, I got to do this. And I got myself to do it. And then seeing someone else do it, and they were like scared. They didn't even want to jump at all. And then they overcome the fear and they do it. I love seeing someone overcome fear. And even though everybody's fear is different, I might just be having the time of my life and it's a little nervous, and someone else, they're almost in tears and they almost have to get thrown off the thing because they're too scared to do it themselves. But when you see someone overcome fear, it lights something up in their mind where they become empowered. They're like, oh my gosh, this thing that controlled me, that stopped me, it's not real. I'm in control and I'm not stopped. And it makes you more powerful, and it builds this confidence and this excitement in you that you're like, I can do hard things. I can overcome. And, you may take a million times, like those sales on my wall, first I had one pin and then another. And then once I had hundreds on the wall, I was like, wow, I'm really good at this. It's the same thing with fear. You overcome one little fear and then another fear, and then you're like, dude, I can overcome anything. And it's the same thing with real estate. A lot of times when people come in, they're just like, I don't know, I'm scared, I don't know how to do it, I'm nervous. And you show them the steps, you vet it out so that it's not risky, and then they pull the trigger, and before you know it, their life's starting to change. And it's cool to see their life change, but it's really cool to see their mindset change, to know that they now have the confidence to just go out and tackle life and design it the way they want, as opposed to being, you know, persuaded to live a life that the world is forcing them into, and they start to take control.
You were talking about how to go over, or how inspiring it is to have people be part of people's journeys.
Mhm.
Um, what does I'm curious, like, because I think people, like, I think it's amazing and it's really cool to also be part of people's journeys as well. That's like the spiritual side of it. I think people
Mhm.
forget too that, like, if you have the ability to educate people, you have an obligation to do so. This is what I think in my head. If you can help someone make 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 extra every single year, every single month, you need to be doing it, because otherwise you're actively hurting them by not helping them learn, right? This is what my mentor Pace Morby told me, and that's what inspired me to start doing this podcast, start doing stuff like the educational stuff like this, right? So, and also it comes back to you, right? It comes back to you in deals, it comes back to you in everything. So, real quick, I just want you to talk about too, like, how has it helped you personally? How's it helped your business also?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I believe, like you said, that there's a lot of times what we put out there comes back and is beneficial to us as well. I've been able to do deals with students and help them get into deals. We'll do partner deals. I've been able to just meet a lot of cool people and be inspired and have awesome experiences. And so on a personal scale, on a business scale, yeah, it's all fed back. And even just working with the school, so I love working with the real estate investing school with Brody Fawcett and the other coaches. And I got to go to Bigger Pockets, and that's where I met you. And so, like, just the networking and the opportunities and the experiences and the deals and friendships, it all just, the more you're doing, my whole theme for 2023 has been that action leads to opportunity. And so the more action you're taking, the more people that you're influencing in your life and you interact with, even if you're not like an influencer, I don't mean like that, but just the more people you interact with, the more opportunities there's going to be for cool experiences in your life. So yeah, it all comes back around.
I love it. So, go back more into, how'd you even meet your business partner for the education school? How has it grown? what's included in the education now, and what do you get? Like, let's say if I wanted to be a student, or if somebody watching wanted to be a student.
Yeah, for sure. So we were actually both in the door-to-door sales world. So we had known each other from that world a little bit. We'd never worked directly with each other, but we knew of each other. And I actually had a little podcast called the Not So Average Joe podcast. And I invited Brody Fawcett and Andrea Fawcett, his wife, to be on the podcast because they had just done this big ultra, like it's like 240 miles or something, this big ultra race, the Grand to Grand, where they go from like the Grand Canyon to the Grand Staircase in Utah or something like that. I don't know, but it's this crazy, feat of endurance. And I interviewed them talking about it. Crazy story. You guys should go check it out. But like they find out during the race that his wife's pregnant and she still finishes, and just pretty epic stuff. So anyway, I had them on my podcast about that. And this just goes to lead to like action leads opportunity, right? So I met them, did that, and then, I mean, a year or two later, he started seeing what I was doing with real estate, and he was just starting this school, and he was like, "Dude, hey, like, can you come, like, be a part of this?" And I told him, "No." I was like, "No, dude, I'm building my own stuff. I'm not interested in working for anybody's stuff but my own." And then he waited a little while and he came back, "Hey, can you come be a coach? Can you come help with this?" And I was like, "No, I'm not interested." And so finally the third time, I was like, "All right, I'll do it. It could be a cool experience." And I'm super glad I have, because it's been a rad experience being able to just work with him and see what he's doing and meet so many people. And so, but at first I was resistant to it just because I was so focused on building my own asset portfolio. Because I was like, my life goal is just, kind of build that out so I can live off of it. Which is a hard thing most people don't do, but I was super focused on that. But eventually I gave in, and I'm glad I did.
I love it. Cool. So then you give in, you find out the joys of coaching. What is your so what do you like, let's say somebody was to sign up, what did they learn about buy and holds? Would they learn about everything? Or like how does the program work?
Yeah, so and I don't run every detail of it, but the
Mm,
cool thing with the school is it is customizable. That's kind of like, I'd say, like the unique offering that a lot don't offer is it's one-on-one coaching. So you personally will have your own personal coach, and they get to walk you through what your goals are. So we have coaches that teach short-term rentals, coaches that teach flips and rehabs, coaches that teach long hold. So we can kind of just assign someone to where they would best fit to achieve their goal. And then that coach will work with them one on one every month and figure out, their resources and their timelines and how the best for them personally to achieve their specific goal. And that's kind of the cool thing, because there's lots of books out there, there's lots of podcasts, lots of, group training stuff. And we have group trainings every month and guest speakers and live trainings and all this stuff. But there's all these resources, there's tons of stuff the school has on top of it. But having a one-on-one coach to work with you, just accountability wise and customization wise, can be really powerful, and people have really liked that.
love it. So it's you get a one-on-one coach. So like there's a coach assigned to you?
Every single student has their own one-on-one coach that they meet with, just the two of them. They can just dive into their specific stuff, which
I
which
like
is
it.
cool and unique. And then again, almost every week there's something that we have, like a school-wide training every week. We have guest speakers, or every month. We have guest speakers every month. We have the podcast. We have, manuals and PDFs and all the resources and all that stuff. So we've got, and then each coach has like what they call a little pod. So like all the students that I one-on-one coach, we also meet together every month just as our little group. And then the whole school meets together every month, and we have guest speakers every month. So there's like lots of layers to it. But yeah, each person has a one-on-one every single month where they can just dive into every detail with their specific coach.
I love it. So then, can you talk about the benefits of one-on-one coaching? That's really interesting. I never had a one-on-one coach until
Yeah.
way later, and it was a business coach. So talk to people like, why should you have a one-on-one coach versus maybe like a mentorship or maybe any other type of program? Like, did you ever have any one-on-one coaches like when you were just starting out or anything? You had your dad, but I'm curious, like, what are the benefits of one-on-one coaching? Did you ever have any, like, and how did it help you and all that?
Yeah, no, that's great. So my dad was definitely a huge influence for me, and I was able to pick his brain about a lot of stuff to kind of get started. But and the cool thing with one-on-one coaching is it can be more of what you need. So everybody's you different. Some people are very much self-starters, self-learners, self-motivated. And some people aren't, right? They need a little bit of more of an accountability partner to just push them and hold them accountable and get them to do what they say. And like, okay, yeah, coach, I'll do what you say. Like they're showing up for their soccer practice and they need someone to tell them what to do. And so it's depending on what you need is kind of what it'll deliver. And one thing that I really like is, and this is what I say, I'm like, look, you can learn podcasts, you can learn from books, you can learn from seminars, but one thing you can't do is ask specific questions for your situation, and you can't do custom strategy on a group thing, right? But when you have your one-on-one coach, we can dive into your deal in Wisconsin that you're looking at and run the numbers and figure out if it's good or bad, and look at your portfolio and your income and go, okay, it's so customizable, and you can ask clarifying questions that apply just to you, which you can't do to a podcast. You can't do to a book. You just take what they have, but this can be very, very specifically customized. And so between that and the motivation and accountability and everything like that, it can be super powerful.
I love it. And then, so, okay. So I really, really like it. When do you feel like someone should get a coach or join a mentorship or start getting educated on real estate? Like, should they first try to do YouTube University? Maybe they don't have any money. Like, when is the right time to get a coach or join an education program?
I think it's personal for every single person. I think it's different. You know what I mean? Like, if I think the most, the best answer that would be all inclusive is when you're ready to do it. Like when you're ready to take their advice and apply it. Like if you're serious about it. Because if you're going to just do it to be able to hopefully give someone some money so you don't have to do the hard work, like it's probably not going to work. But if you're like, I'm going to make this work one way or another, and you're like all in, that's when you're going to get the most out of any sort of coaching program, whether it's group or an online course or a one-on-one coach. Like when you have decided and made the decision that you're going to go all in, that's when you're going to get the most out of it compared to any other time. But if you're trying
Love
to use
it.
it as a crutch and just be like, hey, I want it to do the work for me, so I'll buy this book or I'll take this course or I'll hire this coach because you don't want to do the work, it's like that you're just going to spend a lot of money for not a lot of results.
Right. Okay. So just as soon as you're ready to commit. So like if you just have that drive in you, just immediately get a coach.
Yeah, and
Because
it depends on who
basically,
you are, right? If you know you're not a good self-learner and you're not good self-motivator and you're not good at structure, you might need a coach like sooner, right? But who's somebody who's like this hardcore, heavy, self-motivated, self-learner, they could dive in and learn a ton just on their own. And so maybe they do that first and then they dive into a coach when they just want like a strategy partner to know how to really do some major moves. And so it kind of depends on the person and what they're trying to accomplish and their resources, and things like that. It does to kind of depend on the person of when it's going to be the right time. But regardless of all those, it's when they're going to be serious about it and make the most of it. I've always said like perfect adherence to like a mediocre goal is better than mediocre adherence to a perfect goal. And so if someone's just going to mediocrely try, it doesn't matter how good their ideals are if they're not going all in. But if you just get like any random workout program or any random coaching program, but you're all freaking in, you're going to get more out of it than most people.
no, 100%. That makes sense, right? What do you feel like is the difference between those who are successful and those who aren't in real estate? What makes the difference between the two?
If I had to say one word, the word that just came to my mind is clarity. If you
Okay.
have clarity of what you're trying to accomplish, it's amazing how all the pieces will align themselves to accomplish it. But if it's vague and you're not really sure about, I want to make some money or I want to get ahead if it's vague, the universe doesn't respond to vague. It doesn't, but it will respond amazingly well and quickly to clarity.
I like it. What are your current goals right now? Where are you buying properties? I want to get eventually to plugging stuff, but I'm also curious just what are your real estate goals? Like where are you
Yeah.
buying properties and doing that?
Personally, right now, my real estate goals are to slowly grow my portfolio while spending a lot of time with my kids. They're 5 and 6. Any minute now, they'll both be, I got one boy who's still in preschool, soon they're going to be in school. all the time and not even want to hang out with dad. Right now, they still like me. They think I'm cool. And I want to spend as much time with them as I can, as much time as I enjoy. I also like pursuing my hobbies. And so my first real estate goal was to just hit the cash flow number I needed to not be tied down and be able to do whatever I want with my time. And now I'm trying to actually take advantage of that, while slowly still growing it, on the side, working, a couple hours here and there, but nothing very aggressive right now. Then the next phase will be to double my cash flow portfolio so that I'll be able to be much, much more comfortable. And then the phase step after that, I want to get into bigger exits with, maybe multifamily stuff where I'm doing, raising the NOI, changing the cap rate and getting a nice, windfall at the end. So, I have a multi-phase strategy that I've been looking at for years, and I'm just kind of focusing on where I'm at and enjoying it now until I move in that next phase when my kids are a little older.
I love it. So we're starting to get to the end of the interview, and
Sure.
I have one question that I'm always asked at the very end, which is, if you were able to go back to Joe right at the very beginning, maybe it was right when you were starting that sales job, maybe it was right when you were getting into real estate, what would you
Mhm.
tell that Joe then, knowing everything that you know now?
I would say your number one fiscal responsibility is to build your asset portfolio. Build that, own your assets, own your future, because anything else, you're just building someone else's dream.
I love that. That was a beautiful way to say it. Do you have any book recommendations? What are your favorite books that people should
Oh
read?
man, there's like real estate related or just in general?
Anything, just anything.
Oh man, so it's funny because when it comes to books, I feel like a lot of it is just the timing of your life and mindset when you read that
True.
book.
I
So
agree with
one
that.
couple that were impactful to me though, they were pivotal. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R.
Love that
Covey.
one. I'm rereading that one right now.
That one's a class. I mean, it was pivotal for me when I was younger. Big, big one. How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is a horrible
Classics.
title. It sounds manipulative and weird. The title should be like How to Interact with Humans Effectively. That's what How to Win Friends and Influence People should be called. It's just truly how to interact effectively and get more done. So, anyway, that's a great one that was pivotal. Another one is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That one,
Mhm.
Atomic Habits is kind of the same thing. I read Compound Effect first and I fell in love with it. And then Atomic Habits came out, and the Slight Edge, I think, is another one that's very similar, and people love those ones. But I mean, Atomic Habits is awesome. But for me at the timing, it was more impactful, the Compound Effect. Those are 3 books that were lights out. And then obviously the classic Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Cash Flow
Yeah.
Quadrants. I know they're over, like everybody says that, but like there's a reason. It's the heart and soul, it's the spirit behind it for a lot of people, and it's changed probably more lives in real estate than any other book.
I agree. So, my man, where can people reach you? Where can people join the education program? How do you want people to interact with you? What do you want them to bring you? What value do you want them to bring you? I try to create a community of go-givers who watch this type of stuff, all my content.
Sure.
What do you need? Where can people reach out to you, and what do you need?
Yeah, man. The easiest way is just go to my website. It's just www.josephfjensen. So JOSEPHF is in freedom, Jensen, JENSEN, josephfjensen.com. And that's my link tree. It's got connections to all my social media and the podcasts and everything like that. Realestateinvestingschool.com if people want to check out the school. But yeah, that's probably the easiest way. And then yeah, just
What's the
join
school?
my life. Add me, follow me, comment, DM, reach out, and let's interact. Like I said, action leads to opportunity. The more interactions you have, the more opportunities you're going to have. So
What was the what was the
realestateinvestingschool.com.
cool.com?
Yeah,
Okay,
real
cool.
estate investing school.
Cool,
There we go.
man. Well, do
Yeah.
you have any last words before I start wrapping this up?
No, man, this is awesome. I just appreciate you, having me on, and I appreciate you being on the schools podcast. And these things are fun. I love that we live in a world where we can do this. I think podcast is the coolest media
I would
platform.
also love to come on and teach a class on maybe some creative financing or something in your school if you want
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, we'd love that. Like I say, we have a
Anytime.
guest speaker every month. We should get you lined up for that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, man. You've been amazing. Guys, my last day of my challenge that I'm doing right now is tomorrow. This is the last day. Show up. Just go to www.jonahkorchin.com/acquisitionsweek if you want to see how to run a really successful wholesaling business. It's the last day I'm doing it. It is not live on YouTube. You only get it if you sign up, and then you get all the Zooms for free. But you have to sign up. So sign up here. I just want you to know it's the last day tomorrow, and then it'll be cash flow and coffee. And I don't know if I'm going to do a challenge for a while, guys. So I'm just letting you guys know that challenge ends tomorrow. Come on if you guys want it. This is Scorch the Fears, Joe. You've been amazing. Scorch the Fears, we're out. Let go.